2 months. That was the amount of time that had passed since I eventually left the courthouse with the divorce papers signed. I've been poisoned from the inside out by a marriage that ended 2 months ago. Nicole is my name. Mark, my ex-husband, is officially the biggest mistake I have ever made in my life. I am 34 years old. I can still clearly recall the day I learned. I didn't catch them in bed together in a dramatic moment. Really, that was dumb. I couldn't find my phone, so I began calling it from Sarah's. A text message from Mark said, "Last night was amazing. If you would want to visit, Nicole will be working late tomorrow." Sarah, since college, my best buddy. Mark, too. My spouse of 7 years. 3 years. Behind my back, they had been sharing a bed. Mark didn't even have the grace to seem embarrassed when I confronted him. "Nicole, it just happened," he said, as if he had inadvertently placed the milk in the cabinet rather than the refrigerator. "We can resolve this. I still adore you." Solve this? I made fun of him. "Mark, 3 years isn't a mistake. It's a decision. A decision you made each and every day." He pleaded, vowed to break up with Sarah. But I had already lost something inside of me. The next day, I filed for divorce. Nice guy Mark revealed his true nature at that point. He battled me for everything, including my funds, the flat we had purchased jointly, and even the dreadful coffee machine my mother had given us as a wedding gift. Throughout their marriage, Mrs. Thompson has continuously acted in an aggressive and domineering manner, his attorney had stated in court. "All my client wants is a fair distribution of assets." Fair division. They referred to it as attempting to embezzle funds I had saved from my own paychecks. As my lawyer demonstrated with bank statements, withdrawals that corresponded with dates of hotel reservations and pricey dining when I was out of town, he had already begun spending money on Sarah. The judge caught him in the act. My savings remained mine even after we divided the flat. Little triumphs in a conflict I had no desire to engage in. My family was by my side the entire time. At least that's what I believed. He is a shame to humanity, according to my mother. My dad only called him that man and wouldn't even mention his name. Furthermore, Jen, my younger sister, maintained that I was already too good for him. We sold the flat once the divorce was finalized. I was not there during the closure. Everything was handled by my lawyer. I received my half, Mark received his, and I moved into a rental while I considered my options. I was considering purchasing a home of my own. Not much, but mine. Something that I couldn't lose. I had been cutting out on expensive meals and trips in order to save a lot of money. I was emotionally spent after the divorce, but at least I had a strategy for what to do next. Then Mom called. "Nicole, honey, we're having dinner on Saturday. I want you to come. Jen has some exciting news." Saturday arrived, and I put on something nice, not for anyone else, just because it felt good to make an effort again. When I got to my parents' house, Jen was already there with her boyfriend, Ryan. They'd been dating for about a year. He seemed nice enough, if a bit quiet. "Nick." Jen squealed when I walked in, rushing over to hug me. She was 28, but sometimes still acted like she was 18. She thrust her left hand in my face, wiggling her fingers. "Look." A diamond ring sparkled on her finger. Not huge, but tasteful. "We're getting engaged." The ring is just the beginning. We're having an engagement party in 3 weeks. It's going to be amazing. I smiled and hugged her, genuinely happy despite the twinge of sadness I felt. "Congratulations, Jen. I'm really happy for you." Mom appeared at my side with a glass of wine. "Isn't it wonderful? Our little Jennifer getting married." "It's great," I agreed, taking a sip. Mom squeezed my arm. "And Nicole, this is perfect timing for you. You can help Jen with the engagement party, take your mind off everything with Mark." I nearly choked on my wine. "Help? How, exactly?" "Well," Mom said, exchanging glances with Jen, "you just sold the apartment, and we know you're planning to buy something. But that can wait a bit, can't it? This is such a special occasion for your sister." I looked between them. suddenly understanding. You want me to pay for the engagement party? Not the whole thing. Jen jumped in quickly. Just help out. Please, Nick. It would mean so much to me. I wanted to say no. I really did. But Jen looked so happy, and my own marriage had ended so badly. Maybe helping create someone else's happiness would be healing. Okay, I said finally. I'll help. The next day, Jen called me with her vision for the engagement party. I should have known then what I was in for. I'm thinking we rent out the Grand Hotel ballroom, she said, with those crystal chandeliers. And we'll need champagne, the good stuff, not the cheap bottles. And a 5-course dinner. Oh, and a live band. Ryan loves that jazz quartet that played at Lisa's wedding. I nearly dropped my phone. The Grand Hotel was the most expensive venue in town. A 5-course dinner for what would likely be 50+ guests? The price tag was making my head spin. Jen, that's a lot. Maybe we should consider something more reasonable, I suggested carefully. Reasonable? This is my engagement, Nicole. It only happens once. She huffed. I took a deep breath. I know. And I want it to be special. But the grand would cost thousands, not to mention the band and that dinner. I can help, but I can't afford all that. Silence stretched between us. Then fine. What can you afford? We compromised on the Ivy Room. Still nice, but a third of the cost. I agreed to pay for the venue, food from a good restaurant to be served buffet style, decorations, and, after Jen's relentless begging, a DJ instead of the band. It would still cost me a significant chunk of my apartment fund. But it was doable. Over the next 2 weeks, I threw myself into planning. Despite my initial reluctance, organizing the party became a welcome distraction from my own problems. I'd wake up thinking about table arrangements instead of Mark's betrayal. I'd go to sleep mentally reviewing the playlist with the DJ instead of reliving courtroom arguments. I kept my family updated on every decision. Mom seemed pleased that I was finally focusing on something positive. Dad mostly nodded along. Jen called me daily, sometimes multiple times, with new requests and questions. It was exhausting. But I reminded myself, this was for my sister. Family supports family. That's what they'd done for me during the divorce. Or so I thought. 1 week before the party, Mom called. We're having a Sunday barbecue tomorrow. Your father's firing up the grill, and we've invited some of the family. Ryan's parents will be there too. Mom's idea of some of the family turned out to be almost 20 people crowded into my parents' backyard. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Ryan's side was smaller, his parents, an older brother, and a couple of cousins. Ryan's mother, Patricia, stood out immediately. She wore a designer dress that seemed excessive for a backyard barbecue, diamond earrings that caught the sunlight, and an expression of perpetual disapproval. I'd met her once before, at a dinner months ago, and found her coldly polite at best. Today, she was already on her second glass of wine when I arrived. I decided to keep my distance. The yard was big enough that I could mingle with relatives I actually liked and avoid her entirely. I caught up with my cousin Alex, who'd recently returned from teaching English in Japan, and was having a pleasant conversation when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Patricia stood there, wine glass in hand. Artificial smile plastered on her face. Nicole, there you are. I've been hoping to chat with you. Alex, sensing tension, excused himself. I was trapped. Patricia, nice to see you again, I lied. She took a sip of her wine, eyes assessing me over the rim of her glass. So, divorced life, how is that treating you? It must be so difficult. Her tone suggested less sympathy and more morbid curiosity. I'm doing well, thanks, I said flatly. I just can't imagine not noticing my husband was cheating, especially with my best friend. Were there no signs? She asked loudly enough that nearby conversations paused. My face burned. I'd rather not discuss that. Patricia leaned closer. Does it hurt, knowing he preferred her? I mean, 3 years is a long time to be the oblivious wife. I excused myself abruptly and found Jen by the drinks table. Your future mother-in-law is asking really inappropriate questions about my divorce, I whispered. Could you maybe talk to her? Jen rolled her eyes. You're being way too sensitive. Patricia's just curious. She doesn't mean anything by it. She asked if it hurt knowing Mark preferred Sarah. That's not curiosity. It's cruelty. God, Nicole, not everything is about you. Just avoid her if she bothers you so much, Jen snapped before walking away to join Ryan. I stood there, stunned by my sister's dismissal. The party continued around me, the cheerful noise now grating. I found a quiet corner of the yard, hoping to stay out of Patricia's way for the rest of the afternoon. It worked for about an hour. Then Patricia, now visibly tipsy, clinked her fork against her glass to get everyone's attention. I just want to say, she announced to the gathered guests, how thrilled we are to welcome Jennifer into our family. She's absolutely perfect for our Ryan, isn't that right, dear? She beamed at my sister, who glowed under the approval. It's so wonderful to gain such a lovely daughter-in-law, Patricia continued. Then her gaze settled on me. Although I do feel sorry for poor Jennifer, having such a loser for a sister. The yard went quiet. Patricia pointed her finger directly at me. Abandoned by her cheating husband, who tried to take all her money. Really, it's best if we don't invite her to the engagement party. Such negative energy, who wants that at a celebration? I felt as though I'd been doused in ice water. Patricia swayed slightly, pleased with the reaction she'd gotten from her cruel joke. My sister Jen was giggling behind her hand while leaning against Ryan, who at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. My parents, my own parents, were smiling indulgently at Patricia, as if she'd just told a harmless joke about the weather. In that moment, something inside me changed. I looked at these people, my family, and suddenly saw them clearly for the first time. The support they'd offered during my divorce hadn't been genuine. They'd been laughing behind my back all along. Patricia, I said loudly enough to cut through the laughter, I think you owe me an apology. The woman had the audacity to laugh harder. Oh, sweetie, can't take a little joke? No wonder your husband looked elsewhere. More laughter. I felt my face burning with humiliation and anger. I turned to my mother. Mom, are you going to let her talk to me like this? Mom gave me that patronizing smile I'd seen too often lately. Nicole, you're overreacting. Patricia's just having a little fun. Overreacting. The words stung like a slap. She just called me a loser and brought up my divorce in front of everyone. Oh, here she goes again, Jen sighed dramatically. Always making everything about her problems. Patricia raised her wine glass in my direction. To the perpetually unhappy sister. Maybe if you'd smile more, your husband wouldn't have. She moved as if to splash her wine at me, stopping halfway but making her intention clear. That was it. I'd had enough. Mom, I said sharply, control your guest. My mother's smile tightened. Nicole, you're causing a scene. Why don't you head home? You're clearly not in a party mood today. I looked at her in disbelief. You want me to leave? Yes, Jen suddenly shouted. Just go home, Nicole. Your miserable face is ruining everything, like always. I looked around at the family I thought had supported me. Cousins averted their eyes. My father suddenly became very interested in his beer bottle. Not one person spoke up for me. Not one. Without another word, I grabbed my purse and left. As I walked to my car, I heard the party resuming behind me, laughter floating on the warm spring air as if nothing had happened. The drive home was a blur. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white. Thoughts raced through my mind. All the money I'd spent on Jen's party, all the hours of planning, all the times I'd swallowed my own needs to accommodate her demands for what? To be treated like an embarrassment? A walking wallet? By the time I unlocked the door to my apartment, a plan had formed in my mind. I sat down at my kitchen table, pulled out my phone, and started making calls. Hello, Ivy Room. This is Nicole Thompson. I need to cancel the event booked for next Saturday. The cancellation fee was substantial, but I didn't care. Celestial Catering. I'm calling to cancel the order for the Thompson engagement party. DJ Max. Yes, I'm afraid we need to cancel your services for the 24th. One by one, I canceled everything I'd arranged for Jen's engagement party. With each call, I felt lighter, as if I was cutting away ropes that had been binding me. Yes, I lost some deposit money, but most of the businesses were understanding, especially when I explained that there had been a family emergency, not entirely a lie. After the last call, I composed a text message to Jen. I've canceled all the arrangements for your engagement party. You're now free to plan something that suits your vision without having to rely on your loser sister. Enjoy. I hit send, then turned off my phone and went to take a long hot shower. For the first time since the divorce, I felt truly clean. When I finally turned my phone back on an hour later, it exploded with notifications. 17 missed calls from Jen, 12 from Mom, 5 from Dad. Dozens of text messages, their previews ranging from panicked to furious. I didn't bother reading them. Instead, I deleted them all and went to bed, sleeping better than I had in months. Morning brought more calls and messages. I ignored them all, got dressed, and went to work. My coworkers noticed my improved mood immediately. You look different today, Nicole, my colleague, Gabby, remarked. Good different. I smiled. I finally took out some trash that had been piling up. Throughout the day, my phone continued to buzz. During my lunch break, I blocked my sister's and parents' numbers. If they wanted to reach me, they'd have to try harder than that. When I got home that evening, I was surprised to see 3 people waiting in the parking lot beside my car: Jen, Ryan, and Patricia. My sister's eyes were puffy from crying, while Patricia looked like she was about to burst a blood vessel. I considered turning around and leaving, but decided against it. This confrontation was inevitable, and I preferred to have it on my terms, in public, where they couldn't make too big a scene. As I approached my car, Patricia started toward me, her finger already jabbing the air. You selfish, vindictive little. Careful, I cut her off coldly. I'm not family, and I'll have no problem getting a restraining order against you. She stopped in her tracks, mouth open in shock. I turned to my sister, Jen. This ambush isn't going to change anything. You watched while this woman, I pointed at Patricia, humiliated me in front of our entire family. You laughed along with her. You told me to leave when I asked for basic respect. But the party Jen started is no longer my problem. I finished for her. Consider it my gift to you, the freedom to plan your own engagement without your perpetually unhappy sister ruining things. Patricia found her voice again. How do you speak to Jennifer that way? After what you've done? The humiliation, the expense. I pulled out my phone. One more word, and I'm calling the police to report harassment. I'm done being your punching bag. Ryan, who had remained silent until now, gently took Patricia's arm. Mom, let's go. This isn't helping. But Patricia sputtered. Let's go, Ryan said firmly, leading his mother away. Jen looked between them and me, tears streaming down her face, before following them out of the parking lot. I watched them leave, feeling nothing but calm certainty that I'd done the right thing. My phone rang again, my mother. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Nicole, my mother's voice was shrill through the phone. You need to apologize to Patricia immediately. How dare you threaten her with the police? I leaned against my car, suddenly tired. Hello to you too, Mom. Jennifer is absolutely devastated. How could you cancel everything without even discussing it with us first? And after being so disrespectful to Patricia, I laughed. The sound hollow even to my own ears. Disgusting. Like how you all discussed with me that I should leave the barbecue because I was bringing everyone down. Or how Patricia discussed my failed marriage in front of the entire family while you all laughed. You're being childish, Mom snapped. Patricia had too much to drink, and yes, she was inappropriate, but that's no reason to ruin your sister's special day. I'm being childish? That's rich, coming from the woman who stood by while her daughter was publicly humiliated. Mom's tone changed, becoming placating look. Nicole, we all say things we don't mean sometimes. What matters now is fixing this mess you've created. You need to call back all those places and reinstate the bookings." "No," I said simply. "No? What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no. I won't be reinstating anything. I won't be paying for Jen's party. I won't be apologizing to Patricia. And I certainly won't be pretending that what happened yesterday was okay." Mom gasped. "Nicole Thompson, you listen to me. You will fix this, and you will apologize to Patricia or—" I felt a strange calm settle over me. "Or what, Mom? You won't invite me to Jen's wedding?" "Save your breath. I have no interest in attending." "You don't mean that," she said, her voice quavering. "I've never meant anything more in my life. Goodbye, Mom." I hung up and blocked her number too. Then I walked up to my apartment, the weight of the confrontation heavy on my shoulders. Once inside, I took a long bath and slept soundly for the second night in a row. The next few weeks were surprisingly peaceful. Without the constant drain of family drama and wedding planning, I was able to focus on myself. I finalized my mortgage application, started viewing apartments, and even joined a divorce recovery group where I met other people who understood what I'd been through. My cousin Alex called me about 3 weeks after the barbecue incident. I hadn't blocked him since he wasn't at the center of the drama. "Thought you might want to know what happened with Jen's engagement party," he said without preamble. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to say I didn't care, but curiosity won out. "What happened?" "It was at Romano's. Not nearly as nice as the place you booked, but decent. They really scaled back, just family and a few close friends. Maybe 30 people total." "Did they manage to pull it together that quickly?" I asked, surprised. Alex chuckled. "Barely. Aunt Karen was complaining to my mom that after you canceled everything, Patricia refused to chip in. Said, since you had ruined the original plans, Jen and your parents should foot the entire bill." I hadn't expected that. How did that go over? About as well as you'd imagine. Jen and Ryan have been fighting nonstop because of it. Patricia's apparently made it clear she expects them to pay for most of the wedding too, called your parents financially irresponsible for not having saved more for their daughter's wedding. I couldn't help but laugh. Karma works in mysterious ways. Sure does. By the way, everyone's blaming you for the whole situation. Mom told me your parents are saying you've torn the family apart with your selfishness. I should have felt guilty, but I didn't. And what do you think, Alex? There was a pause. I think they treated you like crap and got exactly what they deserved. After we hung up, I thought about what Alex had said. My family was blaming me for the consequences of their own actions, typical. But for the first time, I didn't feel responsible for fixing things. I didn't feel guilty for standing up for myself. I felt free. 2 months later, I closed on my new apartment, a bright, airy one-bedroom with a small balcony overlooking a park. It was perfect. I arranged a housewarming party and invited friends from work, members of my recovery group, and a few relatives I still kept in touch with, like Alex. Noticeably absent were my parents, Jen, and anyone who had laughed at Patricia's cruel jokes that day. On the morning of my housewarming, I received a text from an unknown number. It was Jen. "Heard about your party from Alex. Guess it was too much trouble to invite your own sister." I ignored it. Another text came through. "Mom and Dad are really hurt. So am I. When are you going to stop punishing us?" I blocked the number and went back to arranging cheese on a platter for my guests. I wasn't punishing them, I was protecting myself. There's a difference. The party was a success. My new friends and the few family members who had shown me real support filled my apartment with warmth and laughter. As we toasted my new beginning, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from my real estate agent with the subject line, "Congratulations on your new home." A digital copy of my deed was attached. I looked at the ownership paperwork for a long time, only my name. No husband. No obligations to family. Only my. I was struck by how much I had changed from the heartbroken lady who had left divorce court 4 months prior. That Nicole had been shattered, deceived by her spouse and closest friend, and clinging to a family that viewed her as nothing more than a resource to be used and a source of shame to be put up with. The real Nicole was stronger than this one. She had limits. She was aware of her own value. Most significantly, she realized that sometimes separating from individuals who don't appreciate you, even if they are family, is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. Over the next few months, Alex kept me informed about my parents and sister on occasion. When Patricia declined to make a financial contribution, Jen and Ryan's wedding was drastically reduced. To pay their share, my parents had to take out a loan. Because of Patricia's persistent criticism and meddling, Jen and Ryan's relationship grew more and more tense. Was I sorry for my sister? There are times when we get brief flashbacks to the intimacy we had as kids. However, those emotions were soon overshadowed by the recollection of her laughing while Patricia made fun of my suffering and her insistence that I leave the barbecue instead of bringing everyone down. I was drinking a glass of wine on my balcony one evening, about a year after my divorce was finalized, when my phone called. Alex was the one. He said, "Thought you should know, the wedding was called off by Jen and Ryan." Patricia's insistence that they sign a prenuptial agreement that would effectively leave Jen with nothing in the event of a divorce appears to have been the last straw. I sipped some of my wine. Naturally, Uncle Jim, Aunt Karen, and my parents are distraught. Patricia is being blamed now. However, they continue to maintain that if you hadn't left the family when they most needed you, none of this would have occurred. Not astonished, I shook my head. There are those who never learn. I remained on the balcony after we hung up, watching the sunset turn the sky pink and gold. I had a range of complicated feelings, including a profound sense of thankfulness for the tranquility I had found in my new life, a touch of grief for what my family may have been, and pleasure that Patricia had finally displayed her real colors to everyone. Despite how she had been treated, the previous Nicole would have phoned Jen right away to give consolation and financial support. The previous Nicole would have offered justifications for her parents' actions and accepted responsibility for resolving a circumstance that she did not cause. However, I was no longer that person. Nicole was all I was. Separated at age 34. Separated from her poisonous relatives. And lastly, totally content with those two realities.